Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Prajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Prajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad, Paramahansa, Parajikacharya, Astotar, the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Parajikacharya, Astotar, the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Did I say Bhagavad Gita? Oh boy. Spaced out. Kwantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. 25th. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudирayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashtaprayasha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki by regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil. And loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh, 1 second. Okay, on this 25th day of May, 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 8, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 11, King Indra annihilates the demons, text number 6. So I guess you have it, okay. Soham durmahinastedya. Sloka 5? I thought it was 6 and 7. Pretty sure we did Sloka 5. I remember that word. Utsasripsanti. So we're reading 5 or 6? 6 and 7. Soham durmahinastedya. Vajrena shataparvana. Shiro harishe mandatmam. Katasva gyatibhisaha. Soham durmahinastedya. Vajrena shataparvana. Shiro harishe mandatmam. Gatasva gyatibhisaha. Does yours say mandatma? Yeah. No, it's mandatman. Yeah, okay. Soham durmahinastedya. Vajrena shataparvana. Shiro harishe mandatmam. Gatasva gyatibhisaha. Tohang durmahinastedya. Vajrena shataparvana. Shiro harishe mandatmam. Katasva gyatibhisaha. Anyone online? Vijay Krishna?
Soham durmahinastedya.
Soham durmahinastedya.
Vajrena sataparvana.
Vajrena sataparvana.
Shiro harishe mandatman.
Shiro harishe mandatman.
Katasva gyatibhisaha.
Katasva gyatibhisaha. Okay, word by words. Saha. I am the same powerful person. Aham. I. Durmahinaha. Of you who can perform so much jugglery with illusions. Te, of you. Adya, today. Vajrena, by the thunderbolt. Shataparvana, which has hundreds of sharp edges. Shiraha, the head. Harishye, I shall separate. Manda Atman, O you with a poor fund of knowledge. Katasva, just try to exist on this battlefield. Gyatibhihi, Saha, with your relatives and assistants. Okay, I can't reach the water. Sorry. Thank you, Prabhu. That's all right. That's plenty. Okay. All right, text 7. I'll read the Sanskrit myself. Shri Bali Vacha. So, okay, you got it there? Okay. Sangrame Vartamananam.
We didn't read the translation.
I didn't read the translation. I shouldn't I? Today with my thunderbolt, which has hundreds of sharp edges, I, the same powerful person, shall sever your head from your body. This is Indra speaking to Bali. Although you can produce so much jugglery through illusion, you are endowed with a poor fund of knowledge. Now, try to exist on this battlefield with your relatives and friends. Shri Balaravacha Sangrame Vartamananam Kala Chodita Karmanam Kirtir Jayo Jayo Mrityu Sarvesham Suranukramat. Bali Mahārāja replied, all those present on this battlefield are certainly under the influence of eternal time, and according to their prescribed activities, they are destined to receive fame, victory, defeat, and death, one after another. Purport. If one is victorious on the battlefield, he becomes famous, and if one is not victorious but is defeated, he may die. Both victory and defeat are possible, whether on such a battlefield as this or on the battlefield of the struggle for existence. Everything takes place according to the laws of nature. Prakate kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha. Since everyone, without exception, is subject to the modes of material nature, whether one is victorious or defeated, he is not independent, but is under the control of material nature. Bali Mahārāja, therefore, was very sensible. He knew that the fighting was arranged by eternal time, and that under time's influence, one must accept the results of one's own activities. Therefore, even though Indra threatened that he would now kill Bali Mahārāja by releasing the thunderbolt, Bali Mahārāja was not at all afraid. This is the spirit of a Kshatriya. Yudhe chapya palayanam, Bhagavad Gita 18:43. A Kshatriya must be tolerant in all circumstances, especially on the battlefield. Thus Bali Mahārāja asserted that he was not at all afraid of death, although he was threatened by such a great personality as the King of Heaven. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshur unmilatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So this is continuing this battle, this second battle between the demons and the demigods. And Indra is, of course, with the demigods, and he's got his very powerful thunderbolt, which has already, I think, played havoc with many of the demons. But Bali, the commander of the demons, is still alive and fighting. And so Indra is now threatened him. And he said, stay alive. What did he say? See if you can stay on the... Let's see. 5. Okay, 6. So Indra said, today with my thunderbolt, which has hundreds of sharp edges, as I, the same powerful person, shall sever your head from your body. So he's threatening him that he's going to kill him. Although you can produce so many juggleries through illusion and so forth, which he's already done. So Bali, now one thing is, we need to remember who Bali is. Bali is a grandson of Prahlad, and he's a great devotee. He becomes one of the Mahājans. In the next chapter, a few chapters, when Vamanadev appears, and Vamanadev has the mission, as prayed to by his mother, right, to recapture the homes and the planets of the demigods, because they've been evicted. And Bali is sitting there. So he takes this form of a dwarf Brahmin, dwarf being an adjective, meaning small and diminutive. Because the noun dwarf means someone who's misshapen because of disease, but we don't want to call Brahmin a dwarf in that way. So, but dwarf as an adjective is okay. Basically, he's a midget. He's diminutive. So you know the story, and we're going to read it in a few days or weeks here. And that is, he deceives Bali. Right? He deceives Shukracharya. Now, one thing that's interesting about Shukracharya, he's the spiritual master of the demons, right? And he's got all of these mystic powers. He's brought them back to life, right? So many of them who were killed. And but he's the spiritual master of the demons, and he trained up Bali. Now what happens is Bali rejects him because he sees that this is Vishnu, and he warns Bali, he said, don't promise him anything because he'll take everything. But Bali said, but I can see that he's a Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he said something very amazing, that you always said I should offer everything to the Supreme Person, but that he's a demon in it. But it's interesting enough that Shukracharya, under a different name, I didn't get a chance to look it up, but in the 10th chapter, Krishna says, of this I am this, of this is this, and of priest I am, and I forget the name, but it's another name for Shukracharya. And that's clear. That Krishna is identifying himself as Shukracharya, the spiritual master of the demons. But he has the saving grace of having advised Bali Mahārāja to offer everything to Vishnu and so forth. And so he is, Prabhupada says in the purport there that he's a great politician or something like that. You wouldn't, but anyway, it's interesting that the leader of the demons becomes the great devotee, so much so that it becomes a Mahajan, one of the Mahajans. Embodying the quality of Atman Nivedanam, of giving everything. Because Vamanadev begged some charity, and he said, whatever you want, I can give you a planet. He's willing to give it to him. No, I just want 3 steps of land. 3 steps of land, but it says your soul is so small, your soul, meaning your sole of your foot, is so small, it's hardly anything. But if a Brahmin is not satisfied with limited whatever charity he gets, then he can't really be peaceful. So Bali says, okay, whatever you want. So then he expands. Huge. With 1 foot he kicks a hole in the universe, and the Ganges starts flowing in. And with the second, I think with the first step he took over the earth. The third step he took over the rest of the universe. And he says, okay, where am I going to put my 3rd step, Bali? And you know the answer. On your head. Put it on my head. So he surrendered everything at that point. And that's why Bhaumasura, not Bhaumasura, who was the father of was it Urvasi? Not Urvasi. But she married, she got Samba to come. His Chitralekha, she kidnapped Samba because she had a dream. You remember that? And her father had many, many arms. I forget his name. Banasura. He was another, I think he was his grandson or great-grandson. He was also in that line, So when Krishna fought him, Shiva, he was a great devotee of Shiva. Lord Shiva, and Shiva actually was fighting on his behalf. He had his Shiva Dwar fight with the Vishnu Dwar, the heat weapon. But the cold weapon, Prabhupada says, if it gets too hot, you can somehow stand it, but if it gets too cold, everything collapses. So anyway, the Vishnu Dwar conquered the Shiva Dwar, and therefore Shiva was conquered. And he prayed that, this is my devotee here, Banasura, so please. So Krishna didn't kill him for 2 reasons. He was also the descendant of Prahlad. But he cut off 996 of his 1,000 arms. That he did do, and kind of humbled him. And Banasura became very humble, and he put his daughter on the chariot, and off they went to get married in Dwarka. So anyway, this is the interesting way in which sometimes those who appear to be out-and-out demons are not really demons deep in their heart, because they have that lineage or they have that training or whatever it is. So that can happen surprisingly. But here, Bali is, all those present on the battlefield are certainly under the influence of eternal time, and according to their prescribed activities, they are destined to receive fame, victory, defeat, and death one after another. So he's in this philosophical mood, I mean, his own, he could receive death here. But he's not afraid. He says, well, it's all planned by the Lord, and it's, all according to our karma, so we're destined to this and that. So he's revealing that he's not an ordinary demon, even though he's the king of the demons at this point. Anyway. So that's the lesson here. Prabhupada quotes from the 18th chapter about the qualities of the Kshatriya. The Kshatriyas are very important. They're the administrators and the warriors. So the Brahmins are the brain, and they have to have these qualities of austerity and cleanliness and self-control and all of these things. And they have to all be Vaishnavas, otherwise they're not real Brahmins. But for the social management, the Kshatriyas, of course, have to be instructed by the Brahmins, but they also have to be very courageous and yudhe chap abalayanam, not running away from a fight, basically, And so you don't find that. Today you have all these corrupt so-called Kshatriyas who sit back in their offices in the capital and send all the guys out to fight, They wouldn't dream of going on the battlefield themselves. So this is part of the corruption of the Kali Yuga. And they're very expert at levying taxes, and then probably dividing it amongst the leaders instead of spending it on proper things. But the taxes, this tax thing and spend, it's gotten out of control. Do you know that the United States is over $30 trillion in debt? It's impossible to repay. And every year, the interest on that debt is more than the whole military budget or something, which is almost $1 trillion. So and that can definitely be a big lodestone that just drags down the whole economy. And, this debt, this increasing debt. So that's, we have these unqualified Kshatriyas who are just in it for themselves, and they're ready to lie. That's another thing. You have to be truthful as a Kshatriya. So we can see that Kali Yuga is rapidly increasing, and the only hope is the Krishna consciousness movement, because it can cause a rebel, as it said right at the beginning, 5th chapter of the 1st canto, when Narada Muni is instructing Vyasadeva in the writing of the Bhagavatam. Tadvagva sargo janataga viplavo yasmin prati shlokam abhanna bhatyapi namanyanantatse yashonkitani yakshinbanti gayanti gunanti sarva. Those words, which are meant to bring about a revolution in the misguided civilization that we have, even though imperfectly composed, not just imperfectly composed, but it says, even though every verse, because they're writing that way, as these verses, Sanskrit verses, may be miscomposed, but if it wholly and solely deals with the glorification of the Lord and His devotees in devotional service, then the wise will read it and they will follow it, even though it may be imperfectly composed. On the other hand, previous verse, Nayad bachas chitta padang hare yasho jagat pravitram pragunita karachid. This is the one in the version in the 12th canto, which I memorized. Tadvang shikirtam natohang sevitam yetrachatas tattva hisadavo amala. It's the same verse with a slight variation. So those words, which may be very nicely composed, every verse is really beautiful. Nayad bachas chitrapadam. You see? Chitrapadam. But Hare Yasho? No, there's not a word of glorification of Hari. But even though it's very nice literature, but the wise will not take it, just as the swans will not. It's a garbage heap. Tadvaya dvangsa tirtam. It's a tirta for the dvanks is another word for crows. Natuhangsa sevatam. The swan-like devotees don't serve it. Don't go there. Won't read that literature. Yatrachita, wherever Achyuta is being glorified, that's the lake where the swans will swim, the devotees. So that's right at the beginning of it's at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, and it's at the end of the Bhagavatam. There's a beautiful 8-verse section in the 12th canto, I forget the exact reference, I think it's 13th chapter. And it's all about the glories of hearing and chanting about Krishna. Sankirtimano Bhagavan Ananta Shrutana Bhava Vasana Nipungsam Pravishya Chittam Vidanoti Shesham Hitatamoko Brahmavati Vata. Says those who get together and glorify the Lord, Sankirtimana Bhagavan, about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shrutana Bhava, when they hear and glance about Him, He enters into their hearts, He manifests in their hearts. And He cleanses away all of the dirt, just like Lord Chaitanya says, just as the sun will dissipate all the fog, the darkness, or a very powerful wind will blow away any fog. And then this beautiful glorification of glorification. Mishagadasta asatira satnakatite bhagavan hokshaja. Mishagada, those words which do not glorify Bhagavan are false, they're lying, they're damaging, you know. Tadeva satyam, tadohaiva mangalam, tadeva punyam, bhagavad gunodiyam, tadeva ramyam, rushiram, navang, tadeva shasang manaso mahotsavam, tadeva shokar navashoshananganam yuditam ashloki yashonagiyad. On the other hand, those words which glorify Uttama Shloka, who's glorified in the best of shlokas, are true. Tadeva satyam, and auspicious. Tadohaiva mangalam, tadeva punyam, very auspicious for your life to hear and chant them. Bhagavad gunodiyam, which give rise to the qualities of Bhagavan. And then I love this. Tadeva ramyam, they're very attractive to hear and chant. Ruchiram navang, full of ruchi, full of taste, and ever fresh. Navang. Tadeva shasvan manaso mahotsavam, an eternal festival for the mind. Now this is at the very end of the Bhagavatam, which has just given us, a vast quantity of words about Hari, which are, if you become advanced, it's just the most attractive thing to hear. Just like Pariksit, he wasn't sleepy. He wasn't like, taking naps here and there. He was completely awake for the whole thing. And when it came to the 10th canto, what he said, finally, Nivitta Tarshai Rupagiyamanam Babashadat Shrotamano Viranam Yatamashloki Puman Varaje Devina Pashugnat. Only a Pashugna, someone who is a meat eater, or he's killing himself, committing spiritual suicide, would not listen to the glorification of the Lord as chanted by the pure devotees, Nivitta Tarshai, who were free from all material desire. Upagiyamanam. It's a babaushadi. What is it? What is a babaushadi? It is what?
This material creation.
No, bhava aushadi. Oh. It's the medicine to cure your entanglement in birth and death. And babaushadi mantra, nivitta tarshait ubagi babaushadi shrota mano abhiramat. And it delights the ear and the mind. In other words, not a bitter medicine, it's a delightful medicine. It's like candy. Bhavashrota mano abhiraman ka uttama who? Ka uttama shloka gunanavara puman varajedevi. Who would give up hearing about uttama shloka except a meat eater or killer of the soul, impersonalist? So that's the beginning of the 10th canto. That Prabhupada quotes that's practically the only verse that's quoted in the Krishna book. There's very few verses. That's right there at the beginning of the introduction. So that's what we have every morning. We have this battle that's going on here on the shore of the ocean of milk, and the drops of blood are going up toward the sun. It's such an incredible battle, but it's all part of the nectarian Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the ripened fruit of the tree of the entire Vedas. So, Sureshwar, are you with us? Haribol. I know you're meditating on every word, that's why your eyes are closed. Hare Krishna. Okay, so I'm going to step out of my lane and I'm going to read one more verse. Tadidam kara vashanam jagat pashanti suryaha narishyanti nashochanti tatta yuyam apanditaha. So this is Indra speaking again. Seeing the movements of time, those who are cognizant of the real truth neither rejoice nor lament for different circumstances. Therefore, because you are jubilant due to your victory, you should be considered not very learned. So this is Indra speaking again. So the demons have conquered the planets of the demigods. And in Indra, they're not going to be able to get him back until Vamana comes. So those who are cognizant of the real truth neither rejoice nor lament for differences. Therefore, because you're jubilant due to your victory, you should be considered to be stupid. Bali Mahārāja knew that Indra, king of heaven, was extremely powerful, certainly more powerful than he himself. Nonetheless, Bali Mahārāja challenged Indra by saying that Indra was not a very learned person. In the Bhagavad Gita 2:11, Krishna rebuked Arjuna by saying, Ashochanam Ashocastram Pragyabarang Sabhasase. While speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. Close quote. Thus, as Krishna challenged Arjuna by saying that he was not a pandit or a learned person, Bali Mahārāja also challenged King Indra and his associates. In this material world, everything happens under the influence of time. Consequently, for a learned person who sees how things are taking place, there is no question of being sorry or happy because of the waves of material nature. After all, since we are being carried away by these waves, what is the meaning of being jubilant or morose? One who is fully conversant with the laws of nature is never jubilant or morose because of nature's activities. In the Bhagavad Gita 2:14, Krishna advises that one be tolerant. You know this verse. Matas parshastu konteha shitoshna sukadukada agama paino. This just tam tatikshvasa bharata. Prabhupada just quotes that last line here. So Krishna advises that one be tolerant. Following this advice of Krishna's, one should not be morose or unhappy because of circumstantial changes. This is the symptom of a devotee. A devotee carries out his duty in Krishna consciousness and is never unhappy in awkward circumstances. He has full faith that in such circumstances Krishna protects his devotee. Therefore, a devotee never deviates from his prescribed duty of devotional service. The material qualities of jubilation and moroseness are present even in the demigods, who are very highly situated in the upper planetary system. Therefore, when one is undisturbed by the so-called favorable and unfavorable circumstances of this material world, he should be understood to be Brahmabhuta, or self-realized, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 1854. Brahmabhuta prasanatma nashojati nakanksati. One who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. Close quote. When one is undisturbed by material circumstances, he should be understood to be on the transcendental stage above the reactions of the three modes of material nature. So, how to get to that point? That's what we're working toward. How to become so pure through the process of devotional service that our natural bliss and love of God, it manifests. And then, what's the question of being unhappy? We have some examples here. We just recently read the story of Prahlad. Prahlad was in what would be considered the most dangerous situation from birth, right? As the son of Hiranyakashipu. He was already trained up by Narada in the womb, so he was able to be completely tolerant. And therefore he never flinched from preaching to his father from the very beginning. You know, his father was considered himself an arch enemy of the Lord because he'd killed his brother, Hiranyaksha. So therefore, what was Hiranyakashipu's solution? Become so powerful, you know, he could perform these austerities, they're unthinkable. He's standing there, you know, so long with his hands up, you know, his whole body gets eaten away, and there's all these ants, and somehow or other he moves the life air within his bones, and he's keeping it, and then he becomes so powerful that even though he's covered by this antle, his glare of his effulgence is heating up the universe, and the demigods go to Brahman and please do something. So he goes down, sprinkles the water, and out comes this powerful, youthful Hiranyakashipu who's, you know, frightens the whole universe, and he takes over the whole universe. Even Narada said, I have to bow down to him, you know. The only ones who weren't were Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So then Hiranyakashipu, you know, when he's not thinking of the soft bed and the bed companion, Prabhupada says, he's thinking of how to avenge his brother's death, you know. So his arch enemies of the devotees. And his son is a devotee, though he doesn't know it at first. But the amazing thing is Prahlad, in that totally vulnerable condition, you know, materially, he's helpless. He's a little 5-year-old boy, you know. His monstrous demon is his father. And yet he fearlessly says, when he asked, what did he learn today? He could have said, oh, I learned the difference between enemy and friends and how to conquer your enemies. And, you know. No, he didn't make up a story. He said, Tat saramanye asodavayadehinam sanasamad vignadiyam asadgahat hit vatnapatam griyamandakupam vanam gadoya dharamashayed. He says, the most important thing I learned, the best thing I learned, oh, best of the demons, didn't call him father. Best for whom? Prabhupada says in the lecture. For the dehinas, for the conditioned souls, for the embodied souls, in other words, for all of us, who are always disturbed in mind, more or less, because we're taking shelter of that which is impermanent. We are sat, we're eternal, taking shelter of the asat. Asat is the ever-changing material world. There's never any security here. There's always the illusion of security. And so therefore, when we realize that, just like today in America, everyone's in anxiety, with the economy, the tariffs, am I going to have a job tomorrow? You go to the grocery store and avocados cost $3 a piece? $3.50? Now it's up to $3.50. No, really, and because of this whole tariff thing, they're not even bringing stuff in. The big Walmart is practically going out of business. What are people going to do? Where am I going to shop? Or where am I going to pick, shoplift? Anyway, so there's all of this. There's always, that's the whole thing about material life. There's always anxiety. Even if you live in, you have billions of dollars and everything, still time is passing. I'm now 65, 70. I know I have all this money. I've got all this treatments to get younger, but it's not working. Billions of dollars. It's still, what to speak of people who can't pay the rent. So that's material life. If you're not anxious and worried now, don't worry. Just wait for it. It's coming, right? and you can see all around you. Because it's like catching. The despair is catching, just like people get all jubilant, and they're chanting together, doing something. So one who is fully conversant with the laws of nature is never jubilant or morose because of nature's activities. So the way to pass a life like that on the Krishna concept is to be tikshava, to be tolerant, and to take shelter of Krishna within your heart in every circumstance, whether it's so-called materially pleasant or unpleasant. That equipoise, that famous word that no one knew when Prabhupada first dictated into the tape, it became equiposed. Till finally the editors, after 20 years, they corrected it. But that equipoise is an important word. It means equal in happiness and distress. That's right at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, we talk about that. So that's the demons are the opposite of that. At a moment's insult, or they'll fly off the handle and want to chop your head off. So that's tamsa tikshva. Following, one should not be morose or unhappy because of circumstantial changes, and neither should one be jubilant. Carries out his duty in Krishna consciousness, is never unhappy in awkward circumstances. He has full faith that Krishna protects, and that's so much of the Bhagavatam you see is stories about that. The Pandavas went through so much, but somehow they always tolerated it because they relied on Krishna. At the end there, Queen Kunti's prayers are so conclusive, so wonderful. Even that when Vibhadak Santatakshasvat, she's saying, there's danger at every step in this world, but let those dangers come again and again because they help us remember you more intensely. Krishna does that. He puts the devotees into difficult circumstances so they'll just have to depend completely on him and call out, So that's the situation of the material world. And it's practically the only way to live in the material world successfully, is to be Krishna conscious and confident that Krishna will protect and look forward to not coming back. Don't come back. That famous book is called Coming Back. And the last chapter, the title of it? Don't Come Back. It was written by Mukunda Maharaj. It was very nice about, the conclusion is. So I was just thinking how it's kind of a little paradox, because one of the main motivations for practicing spiritual life in general is to become liberated, right? Become liberated from birth and death. Krishna talks about that in the Bhagavad Gita. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doshana, Darshanam. In the 13th chapter, between 8 and 11, there's all this list of elements of knowledge that we, The first one is amanitvam, adambitvam. And amanitvam, don't be proud. What is it? Trina Manina Manadena. Don't want any honor for yourself, but always be ready to honor others, beginning with the spiritual master and Krishna. So that's the first thing. And he goes on, and then he comes, to this, and one of them is to always see the evils of birth, old age, and disease and death. Now Vijay was on my case to try to change that word evil, Because evil, mostly has the connotation of bad person trying to hurt others, right? Demons. But evil can also mean just something that is a source of unhappiness or misery for you, like birth, old age, disease, and death. So properly use that word. It's not used that way so much in Western English, in American English, but in English it is. Anyway, so that's an important first impetus, and also something you can fall back on when you get distracted and your Krishna consciousness is lagging a little bit. Hey, I don't want to come back to this place. Let me chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, right? That's perfectly valid at the beginning. But as time goes on, you're meant to come to the point of, hey, heaven or hell, I mean, I have to come back as long as I have your service. Just keep me in your service. That's the prayer of the great devotees, And that's why Lord Chaitanya teaches us, nadanang, nadanang, nasundaring kabir. What is he not praying for? Well, wealth, wife, and position. And I'm not praying for liberation because he says birth after birth. Just birth after birth. What does he want most ardently? Ahoituki, bhakti. Mama janmani janmani shure bhagavad bhakti ahoituki tvayam. Ahoituki means selfless service with no material motivation, because that's the source of the highest happiness. You see? So that's why a devotee can even though desire for mukti or liberation is a very important motivation at first, and therefore Krishna says, remember birth, old age, disease, and death. But at a certain point, he says, oh, in life or death, as long as I have your devotional service, in heaven and hell. With your service, without your service, heaven will be like hell, and with your service, hell will be like heaven. In some ways, this material world often seems very hellish. But if you're able to remember Krishna and serve and be in service, then you can tolerate and still feel his presence. So therefore, a real devotee never deviates from his prescribed duty or devotional service. And that, again, was exemplified by Prahlad. He never played the game of flattering his father and telling him that, I'm having a great time learning about all the demonic principles. No, every time his father asked him, another question? What did you learn? Hey, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaratam, Padasevam. I think it was that one that he decided to kill him after he heard that one. But in every case, father, he says, his father said, where do you get your strength from? What is it? Then he says, the same place you do, father. But don't worry. Then he has these famous, Matirna Krishna Padatak Svatova, Mito Bipadeti Grihapatanam, Adanta Gobe Vishatamta Misram Punakmanas Chavida. Don't worry, father, you'll never be a devotee. You don't have to worry. Matirna Krishna. People who have these qualities can never place their mind on Krishna. Mito Abipadet Grihapatanam, those who have taken a vow to stay in material family life, Grihapatanam. And their senses are therefore uncontrolled, Adanda Gobir, and Vishatam to Misram, they enter more and more into ignorance and darkness. Why? Famous line. You can memorize this one, I'll ask you later. Punak Punash Charvita Charvananam. You probably heard it about 100 times. You forget what it means? Again and again chewing the chewed. Again and again chewing the chewed. With the modern electronics, again and again you can watch the same program, with a little variety. Again and again you can listen to the same stupid record or whatever you got, right? And you become accustomed to that, and that just it becomes a very powerful material desire that is sure to bring you back again. So that's the alternative. So Prahlad is telling his father, don't stay in this deep, dark well of material family life. Give it up. Go to the forest. And it's understood from the commentaries, Vrindavan. Vanam gato yad. And then what are you going to do there? Haram ashrayeta. Those words struck Hiranyakasipu like a thunderbolt. Here's my beloved son, who I've been training to be my successor, and he's telling me to go take shelter of Hari in Vrindavan? Where did he learn all this? And he looks at Chandana Marga. He said, we didn't tell him. We didn't teach him. I don't know how Anyway, so it goes on like that. It's an incredible story. But Prahlad, he exemplifies this, equipoise in happiness or distress. And this is something that we have to learn also. Okay, now we've gotten to a very late point. Are there any questions? Vijay, you got a question? or a comment?
I have a comment, if I may.
Okay, please.
Okay, that's here. Hare Krishna.
Hi,
Wonderful.
Bob. Hi, Trey.
I just wanted to speak a few words in glorifying the Sattvata Samhita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it separates and so clearly shows the difference between even the great demigods like Lord Indra, who in this verse, the previous verse, is trying to frighten Bali. And he's speaking these blusterous words, glorifying his weapon.
Yeah.
He's speaking in ways that you notice the Mahajans never speak like that. They're always sagacious, philosophical. They're never bewildered. And they're, as you mentioned in the last verse from the 10th canto, they're selflessly devoted, which is something that demigods just don't comprehend because they're sakama devotees. So there's other Puranas in the mode of passion that glorify Indra as the supreme. We're fortunate to have the Srimad Bhagavatam, which, even though it's Smriti Shastra, Jiva Goswami says it is the supreme praman. It is the best evidence, the supreme absolute truth in which the Mahajans are glorified, and even the great demigods like Indra are revealed to be lesser.
Yeah, and Indra, you know, it's classic. You know, I always point out, you probably heard this about 10 times, because I'm always dealing with a language, you know, and Indra and Indriya. I mean, come on, that's why he's got those eyes all over his body, right? They weren't eyes for a while. So, and it happens again and again. And there's a point that when Krishna is going to save all the girls who've been kidnapped by Bhaumasura, you know, and marry them all, and to return the earrings of Aditi, which was stolen. And so he's going there, so he's got to get them from Bhaumasura, I think. So anyway, he fights with Bhaumasura, kills Bhaumasura, and then he's got Satyabhama with him on Garuda, and goes back to give back those earrings, which he does. And meanwhile, she says, oh, look at those beautiful, what's the tree? The special tree that they steal. Come on, Maitreya, you know this one. I'm sorry, I forget.
The tree from the heavenly planets that Krishna brought?
Yeah.
What is that called?
You must be getting old too, like me.
Parijata.
Parijata. Thank you, Babu. Parijata tree. So she says, let me get the flower. And he says, no, I want you to have a whole tree. So Krishna gets a whole tree, and he's going back. And then he says, no, you can't take a tree from me. Are you kidding me? He just got back to, you know, the earrings and you know. So again, there's a fight. Of course, no one gets killed, I don't think. But then Shukadeva gets very angry at Indra, and he berates him for this. He says how he can't even remember, you know, while you were put in your place by the lifting of Govardhan Hill. And this is the effect of being too controlled by the senses, that you forget that your lust overwhelms your memory and intelligence, and once your intelligence is lost, you fall into the pool. So that's Indra's fate. He's always, but he's still again a demigod, as you say. He has a very important place. I always remember that story that Prabhupada would tell about Indra, how he was cursed to become a hog. You remember that? He becomes a hog. And he's, doing his Indra thing, and he has many children, little hoglets, and he's living. When I made this, I'll never forget this. I made this joke, and Mahatattva laughed when he was still Mahatattva. He's in hog heaven, right? You're on earth, but things are getting disorganized. He has this very responsible position, you know, of taking care of the weather and managing. And he's head of the demigods. So Brahma comes down and tells him, you know, who he really is, and says, "Let me take you back to the heaven. You can resume your position as a demigod rather than eating stool here, you know." And then it says, into the hog says, "No, I can't go. I have a very responsible position. I have all these children and my wife. I can't go anywhere." So Prabhupada, he doesn't tell this part of the story all the time, but then apparently Brahma just killed his wife and all his hoglets, so that he would be shaken up and detached, you know. Now he doesn't have a reason. So that's the story. You're right about that. You know, it is a different platform of service. These demigods, they all have a position to perform, and you know, even Brahma.
It's a very important service, and it sort of teaches us how to deal with puffed up devotees who may be neophyte. If they have an important service, you don't want to totally discourage them. Like when he stole the 100th horse of Prithu Maharaj. Lord Vishnu personally brings him back and shows you, okay, he may have fallen into Maya, but he's making advancement. We don't want to totally discourage him, but we'll forgive him and give him another chance.
Right, that's it. What to speak of Brahma, when he came down, stole the boys, stole the calves, And so he was also put in his place, but he responded with the wonderful prayers and went back to his very responsible position. But yeah, we don't want to become a demigod. We want to become an Adam at the Krishna's lotus feet eternally, right? Isn't that Lord Chaitanya's prayer? Right? Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace, consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. The prayer of God in the mood of his best devotee, teaching us how to pray. Okay, that's all for today. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I apologize for reading an extra verse. And tomorrow, well, I'm going to be the guy to give the class tomorrow, so I don't have to worry too much about it. Okay.